The show stating what others hate. Seeking the truth and transparency here on Patriot View
at 1A Independent News.
With your host, Bear Direct.
Hey, what's going on, Patriots? Thank you for joining us for this episode of Patriot View at 1A Independent News. We have some issues lately. Some of our episodes are, the lips are moving, but the audio's not in sync. So it's kind of like watching an old Chinese kung fu movie, right? So, anyways, again, thank you for joining us for this episode of Patriot View at 1A Independent News. If you got something you want to say, our website and our email right up here. If you got something you want to get out but don't want to put it on your own social media profile because of trolls, you're more than welcome to send it to us. We'll tell you how, actually not how, but what we require for submissions at the end. Also, we do not have any sponsors. We have items that we recommend on our website, okay? They are not sponsors. Clearly states in the description is not a sponsor. We do have two ways you can help support what our goals are. On our website, bottom of the homepage is crowdfunding box. Top of all the pages on the website, there's a little hosting gift box. So anything you, if you choose to gift to the hosting gift box at the top of the pages of the website, that does not go to us directly. It goes to our hosting provider and it credits our hosting account. Okay. So, however you choose to support what our goals are and what we're trying to do, we greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate you. The biggest way to help us, though, is to follow and subscribe to our channel, share, but ultimately share the episodes. Help us get the views on the episodes, even the old episodes, up. Okay, if you're viewing from Facebook, X, or Truth, you're getting the episode of the day. Again, share it on whatever platform you're grabbing it off. And sign up for, when you're out over to Rumble, sign up for a free Rumble account. A free user account there. It's going to give you, or at least I think it still gives you, excuse me, a limited amount of storage. So if you want to try your hand at content creation, it's kind of similar to YouTube in certain aspects. So it's pretty user-friendly. But it only gives you a certain amount of storage in the plan. So we have a paid plan because it gives us more storage. But you can try your hand at content creation. I believe in order to follow or subscribe to our Rumble channel, you've got to be a registered user. So maybe not. I don't know. I haven't tried it. So either way, that's the best way to help us grow, because we're monetized. Our episodes are monetized automatically, the way we have it set up. So you don't have to jump through hoops with Rumble versus like you do with YouTube or some of the other platforms in order to monetize. You just got to have the views. So even with them, it requires a lot of views. So help us get those views up into the thousands. I know once we can start getting up there in our views consistently, they're just going to grow. So help us do that. Don't be afraid to send us something with some content, ideas for content or whatnot. This is a carpool, man. Until we can get to where we can get the studio done, everything's unscripted. So we're trying to remember everything we want to discuss. And it's like driving down the road, heading to work. Okay. Actually, you're more distracted. Well, for me, I get more distracted from paying attention to what I'm, driving, right? With actual people in the vehicle, especially in the back seat, than I do doing this. So, anybody that's been watching for a while knows that I don't look at the camera until I'm stopped. Generally, or it's just a quick glance. But generally, I'm taking assessments of my surroundings all the time. So, Help us out. Help us grow. Click on that video. I set them. I set ones that I follow. Don't really care for the content, but I understand what their ultimate goals are and what they're trying to do, and I give them kudos for that. So I don't like their presentation is what it is. It's not that the content of what they're discussing is bad. It's the presentation. I try to give you the best presentation. Bottom line, some people may feel the same way. Oh, I don't like the presentation. It makes it suck. But you know what? It's what the goal is, what the presenter is trying to tell you, that makes a difference. It's not really how it's presented. Everybody wants action and excitement. That's why auditors do so well, because they're always. Let me hit the light, see if I can get a better. It's kind of foggy. The auditors, especially the ones that like to poke the bear, they get so many freaking views. And understand, if you guys are conservatives and you're watching most of these auditors, a lot of them are very liberal. They're liberals, just pushing the boundaries. And these are the ones that you'll see that are actually literally, most of them, and like I said, as far as Jason from Amagansett Press and Sean Reyes from Long Island, I don't know what their political affiliation is, what their political beliefs are, what their religious beliefs are. I really don't know, and I really don't care. Excuse me. For the simple reason is they're very reserved. Sean Reyes is like, bam, spot on. I don't know. I've never talked to him. I don't know what his political beliefs are. He may hate Trump. He might be an extreme liberal. But, I like the way he handles things, because he's very calm, very laid back, very reserved. He doesn't push and antagonize like people accuse him of. Jason from Amagansett Press, same thing. He's very cordial. You ask him a question, he'll give you a question. If you don't but if you start poking him enough, he gives what he gets, is what it is. Sometimes I think his reaction is a little knee-jerk. Sometimes, as far as when people react, but he's from I think he's from Amagansett. I think he's on Long Island. That's where he's originally from. So I think he's got that city, Long Island, New York, knee-jerk, snap at you type thing. Listen, I'm from New York. I'm not from New York City, but I've dealt with a lot of idiots, is the way I put it. Because most of them come up here and in the North Country and they act like exactly that. They act like they're still in the city, where you got to be aggressive and verbally aggressive to get your point across. You ain't got to do that up here. We're simple folk. So, like I said, but I still like his presentation. I like his son watching The Watchmen. They're pretty easy. But they don't sit there and poke the bear. He's not going to react until you make him react. So he's going to meet your level at some point. And he's going to say, hey, you want to be a douchebag? I'm going to be a douchebag back. Bottom line. Where some of these other ones, they like to literally poke the bear. And how do you know they're liberals? Because I've watched them all, or most of them. And I've heard the comments out of it when they talk to people, especially like officers. Oh, you must be a Trump supporter. Or other people that they're talking to. Oh, you must support Trump. That's how you know they're a liberal. So I pretty much track them down. Those are two things. I don't know. I have never personally heard Sean Reyes or Jason from Amagansett Press, neither one of them, say anything to somebody about how they're reacting to them as, oh, you must be a Trump supporter, or you must like Trump, or anything like that. That would be a tell to say, hey, these friggin' idiots are liberals. Um, I do not really get the impression that Jason from Amagansett Press is a liberal, because he literally said when he's dealing with some cops in areas, he was like, listen, this is one of the reasons I left Long Island. This is one of the reasons I left my home state, because of this, because of how you're acting. You can't, in an area like down there, down in the city, down in that area, you cannot sit there. These are blue areas, man. Seriously, hardcore blue areas. Can't tell me that these cops are sitting there and they're hard Republicans or conservatives. And he's trying to compare it. Hi, dear. Bye, dear. I just don't see it. I don't get it. So I mean, like I said, he may very well be a liberal, and thinking and saying that, hey, these conservative cops, man, in that conservative state, area, of Long Island and New York City, the 5 boroughs, Orange County, blah 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 blah, are conservative Nazis. It just doesn't make sense, right? Like almost every one of your elected officials is a Democrat. Most of them are Democrats. The majority. That's why they're blue. Now, the majority of New York State is red. Then how do you have all these Democrats making all these bad decisions for the state? Because areas, the highly populated areas like Long Island, New York City, Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, they're cities. They're large. They're little blobs on the map. New York City is the biggest area, like city. But if you didn't have New York City and you split the 5 boroughs around, they'd be like blobs, just like Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester. But they're so densely populated, it outnumbers. They get outnumbered, basically bullied out. They bully out the rest of the state. So you get these little spots, these little blue spots that determine what the rest of the state is doing. So the rest of the state, probably 90% of the state gets screwed. I've had people come up into my area of upstate New York, and I'll look at them and they'll move up here. It's like, why'd you leave the city? I'll find out. I mean, I've literally found out what their political affiliation is. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. It's like that because how you vote, right? Some get it and go, yeah, we're reevaluating. Others will be like, get mad. Hey, you know what? You conservatives, man. You don't believe in the Constitution, man. No, nobody believes in the Constitution more than I do. You know what really ticks me off? I've seen some. I just recently watched a video of a man who's a constitutionalist, goes around all over the place, holding the signs. Not the God bless homeless veterans guy. Another one. I don't think it's the same guy. I think it's a different guy. But he's had won a lot of lawsuits for civil rights violations because of holding signs, saying things that are unpopular. Now, Constitution already upheld, right? Years ago during Vietnam, that when I don't remember whether he was come back from Vietnam, I believe it was a returned soldier, ended up in court, and he said F the court or something to that effect. I can't remember what it was, and he was arrested, and it ended up going through a lot of litigation, and the ruling was by the higher court was one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric, and it was constitutionally protected. So you can literally go F you, and it's protected free speech. F the police. I mean, I had a bad encounter where they basically screwed me over with a false testimony, false statement. The whole justice system failed. My lawyers failed. I mean, I didn't come out. I came out okay, but I didn't come out without a scratch. I had to take a little bit of a hit on the bumper. But I blame the legal system, and I blame the lawyers. But I had to ultimately make a decision that was in my best interest, even though everything that was going on was retaliation. So there was more evidence that people were trying to give law enforcement, and they refused to answer them. Literally refused to answer, and before court was ever introduced. So the investigation was still open, and they basically closed the investigation by not answering calls for witnesses. Witnesses for me. And I told them, I said, man, there was like freaking 25, 30 people around. What are you talking about? So they basically screwed. My lawyers got the witness statements. The court didn't care. It wasn't even that the court didn't care. The DA didn't care. They knew the case was bumped. But the DA, the ADAs were told, get a conviction of some sort or find another job. If you do not pursue the charges, you get another job. And that was for everybody. It didn't matter. You could have been jaywalking, and their ADAs are you do not drop a case at all. You do not drop a case at all. If you do, go find another job. So there was a lot of contention with the DA. That's how one-sided things are. It's not supposed to be that way, right? ADAs are supposed to say, you know what, hey, there's enough evidence here, that it says that refutes what the claims are. They're supposed to be able to do the right thing, right? Not with that DA that was there. No. I know I said I'm in a prominently red part of the state, right? The DA was a Democrat, a liberal. Believe it or not. She got voted in because of her aunt. Which was another politician, another state politician, state senator. So, yeah, that's how that boosted her and helped her, which ended up ultimately getting her an appointment as a judge. And another part, south of the little farther south out of my area. Thank God. She actually should have recused herself because she actually knew me. And I tried to bring that one up, and it didn't. Nobody seemed to think that was going to be an issue. No. My unblemished record got a ding in the bumper. So, but that's what happens when you have liberals that outnumber you. This is what happens when you have a justice system that is one-sided. I'm going to get what is this whole build-up? This whole build-up is, I want to bring up an example that goes into a different direction. We've been talking about Texas and California with the line, the redistricting, right? Now, California voted to redistrict, California voted the Prop 50, right, to redistrict in California. Well, Texas voted to redistrict, but it was to make it more fair, to actually literally make it more fair. Lawsuits were filed against Texas for redistricting, right? California do? They decide we're definitely, even though the lawsuits are filed against Texas, we're definitely moving forward with Prop 50. We're definitely moving forward with it. We are going to do this. And they did, and it passed, which would definitely screw the majority of the state, because believe it or not, if you look mass-wise, body-wise in the state, a very, very large portion of it, believe it or not. So I would say, if you broke it down, just over half of the state is red. Okay. So what they wanted, what California's plan was to decapitate close to a quarter of the state in redistricting, which would make it, which would put it into the highly populated areas of blue, which ultimately their hope is would make those districts blue. That they'd vote, they would be, when the seats were voted for, they would go to a Democrat. Because, you see California is a Democrat state, man. And you ever wonder how you got Republicans and senators and congressmen that are Republicans in California, man? How's that? It's those red areas. That's how. I think you might have a couple out of these blue areas, but the way that most of them are getting voted for are these predominantly red areas. What the whole purpose of the redistricting in California and the Prop 50 was to actually, as they admitted, so we can get these extra seats, Democrats can get these extra seats and take back over the House, and is what the deal was. That's why they did it. They admitted to it. Newsom admitted to it. We're going to redistrict, and we're going to get these X amount of seats, and we're going to take back over the House. The motive was very clear, and what the plan was, and why they were doing it. So now the court decided that the redistricting in Texas can't do it. They ruled against it. So there is a lawsuit already filed for California for their redistricting. Now the precedent is already set with Texas. So California should be an automatic no. So we're going to wait and we're going to watch this. We're going to see exactly what happens, whether California gets away with the redistricting or not. Excuse me. It's very clear that if Texas can't do it, then California can't do it. That should be the precedent right there. So we're going to wait. We're going to see. We're going to watch how this plays out. and hopefully the right thing happens. That the courts come back to California and go, nope, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. So there was a meeting with Trump and Mondani. I haven't heard or seen what the discussion was, what the outcome is, with whether there's any kind of agreements, blah 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 blah. So we're just gonna wait and see on that one. Lots of things going on. Still a bunch of protests against ICE. So these pro-Palestinian protests are still going on, but a lot of it is against ICE and deportations. Listen, you now have other countries that are sitting there going, yeah, the U.S. has it down. There's I don't even remember what the party is in England. They're actually running on that platform about we're going to mass deport. Since this has all happened, our crime rate's gone up. Basically the same situation as here. And how do you know? Well, how do you know it's these migrants, these blah 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 blah, these illegals, blah 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 blah? Because they've been arrested. We know who they are. We know they did the crime. I mean, we got illegals in the United States that are getting. They're not illegal. They were let into the country. Listen, but they were let into the country illegally. The Biden administration is complicit, aiding and abetting these illegal immigrants, these illegal aliens into the country, because it was not done through the legal process, the process outlined and approved by Congress in the Constitution, as outlined by law, which means they entered the country illegally. They were facilitated by the Biden administration. Hence, they broke the law, meaning the Biden administration. Everybody that supported and made sure that these illegals were going to be let in. And I don't blame the ICE agents and this, that, and every other thing, because they were told they had to. But yet you got these Democrats that are sitting there now telling these people, telling soldiers, telling all these people that you have a duty. You have a duty to question and refuse to follow an unlawful order. This administration is unlawfully turning U.S. troops and such on U.S. citizens. No. Listen, it comes to a point when the President of the United States, our elected officials, have a duty to protect the citizens of the United States. And when the states and the cities fail to do that simple job, then I'd expect that the federal government goes, listen, you either get your crap together or we're going to come in and we're going to do what needs to be done to make the streets safe again. For citizens, law-abiding citizens, to walk down the streets confident that they're not going to get hurt or robbed or killed. So, I personally understand exactly what's going on. It's only happening in these very high crime areas. Now, when it comes to the illegals getting rounded up, they're here illegally. Doesn't matter whether the prior administration let them in or not. They're still here illegally. Well, they're rounding up Native American Indians and trying to deport them. They're rounding up. If you came from another country and you became a citizen of the United States, and you did something, depending on what it is, I'm not buying the whole, they're rounding up these citizens, these naturalized citizens, or, whatever, and they're deporting them. They're rounding up citizens of the United States and deporting them. That's propaganda, man. Now, if you became a citizen of the United States and you did something, yes, there's certain instances where it can be submitted and go to court to revoke citizenship. But if you were born here in the United States, unless you denounce your citizenship, they can't deport you. It just can't happen. It literally cannot happen. You were born here in the United States, unless you were born from an immigrant, okay, that came here illegally, and you were a child, that's probably the only way you're going with your family. And that's what it is. You're going with your family. Unless there's somebody here that's willing to care for you till you can legally care for yourself. Sorry, that's just the way it is. It's not your fault your family broke the law. People, my father was, my wife. If your wife is here in the country, and even if she came here legally, but everything expired, and she didn't follow up, and she didn't get the things done, and blah, 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 then, yeah. You're on a work visa. Your work visa expires. You're still here. See ya. You're no longer here legally. It's just the way it's always been. Student visas. People overstay their student visas. Their student visas expired. They're still in the country. You're legally not supposed to be in the country anymore. When your visa expires, whether it be a work visa, student visa, when it expires, you either have to apply for another one before it expires and hope it gets approved before the other one expires, or you have to leave the country. That's just the law. That's the way it's always worked. No, let's just make these people, just let these people just enter the country in masses illegally. It worked when Cuba did it. All we got was Cubans. They were literally going around executing people that didn't agree with the country. Did we get a lot of bad people out of this? Was a lesson learned. Did we get a lot of bad people out of Cuba? Oh, yeah. We ended up with a lot of bad people out of Cuba. That was the lesson learned. And people just don't remember it. Well, how do you remember it? Yep, I grew up during it. I lived in Florida for quite a while. And you actually get to see parts of it, remnants of it, that were still things that were brought with them to the United States. And it became a very bad thing, especially in the Miami area. That was the worst. That was really the worst of it, Miami. People just don't get it. These liberals just don't get it. When time is up, time is up. We got to stop protecting these. We need to be. How can you say you're a Christian person? I've had this discussion, like I said yesterday in an episode. Oh my man, I am a bivocational pastor. I'm a jarhead, man. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a jarhead. I'm always going to be a constitutionalist and a jarhead. I'm very God-fearing. I try to watch what I say, but the jarhead in me comes out sometimes. which when I had my when I was senior pastor at the church that I was at for a while, some of the people just laughed. Many of them were veterans and or family members of veterans, and they knew, they understood it, and they would get a kick out of it if I did a sermon where I really got going, and I didn't cuss. But it's like, how I mentioned, how hard it is being a veteran, and you're so passionate about something, and you just want to bust a word, and you catch yourself doing it, and they'd laugh, like, yeah. But like I said yesterday, I've heard priests actually say worse. I've heard priests, Catholic priests, actually tell some of the raunchiest jokes, and I've looked and I'm like, you're joking, right? I'll give you an example. I took my guys up to the Catholic church in the area there several years ago, while we still had it open. After over 33 years, we decided I was burnt out. It's time. Folks decided they were retiring completely, and I said, you know what? When you retire, I'm retiring. I am burnt the frick out. I'm done. I'm going to go find something else to do. That the business is somebody else's responsibility, because I can just shut it off at night. When I go home, I can just shut it off, and get some sleep. So I bring my guys up on this job. It's a church that my folks went to, Catholic church. And I go to the guys, I go, listen, I had my brothers, actually, and a couple of the other guys that worked for us. And I go, listen, it's Catholic church. Let's mind ourselves and watch what we say while we're working here. We're going to be here for a few days. And we were outside for the bulk of it. So my father just pulls up. He knows the groundskeeper and blah, 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 blah. The guy comes out and he's starting to tell, he's telling some joke. Hey, loves a joke. Starts telling jokes. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? Realize where we're at. When I was on church property, on any kind of off-sided jokes or anything, language got shut off. I minded myself of where I was. There's times, yes, that I'd start to say something in a very passionate way and catch myself, and my congregation knew it. But this guy's just going on like, and my brothers and the guys are sitting there, and my father's sitting there, and because they're laughing. Like, he's like, my father's like, I didn't think it was that funny. I didn't think that one joke was that funny. And I'm just looking, and they looked and they go, one of my brothers goes, no, because he told us, and he points at me, he told us that we needed to watch what we say and how we act while we're here. We're on church property. And he's just cranking these jokes out, these vulgar jokes out. And the guy looks up, he goes, well, you ought to hear how Father Bush talks and the jokes that he tells, which is their priest. I didn't believe it until I actually heard him. He ended up coming out at one point during the day, and the guy goes, hey, Father, blah, 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 to tell these guys some jokes. He told me you can tell you got some good jokes. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking. Now, he knows my family. He's met me, but he didn't know exactly who I am. He did not realize that I was a pastor. And he starts ripping off these jokes. And the guys are laughing in there. He looks over at me, he goes, you just don't seem very, you don't like a joke. I said, yeah, I actually really do like a joke. I go, but even for me, those are a little farther than I would have taken it. He goes, but you're a jarhead. Why wouldn't you like? I said, because those are still a little farther than I, as a pastor, would take it. And he looks, he goes, you're a what? And my father goes, yeah, he's a pastor. He's an ordained minister. He's a pastor. At a church. And he tells him which church I'm at. And he goes, oh, well, because I did not know that. And I go, hey, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying they took it a little farther than I would have, even as a Marine. Here, especially in this setting. I go, but I don't judge. It's not my place to judge. But the look on his face was classic. So I always said I would not preach something to somebody, to my congregation, that's hypocritical. And I never did, nor will I ever. I've heard sat through sermons where preachers are sitting there and they're preaching a message, and then you turn around and later that day or a couple days later, you hear them say or do something that's totally the opposite of what they just preached a sermon to their congregation on. And then I've called some of them out on it. I'm like, listen, you guys, you just did a message on this, and then you turn around and did exactly what you preached out your message on. That said, you don't do. Well, it happens. I go, but you can't preach a message and then totally, so you're telling your congregation not to do something and then turn around and do it yourself. I was not invited back to that church, which was fine. I don't know, guys. Again, I'm not trying to preach a message. I'm just trying to give an example. Churches are like politicians. There's, like politics. You get those ones that want to run the straight and narrow, and then you get the ones that are hypocritical. Sorry, like it or not, liberals are very hypocritical. It's the good for me, not for thee, which means I can do it, but you can't do it, which they've shown time and time again. Look, they went after Donald Trump over, business dealings and stuff like that, right? He cheated the system. But then you got Tish James, Adam Schiff, Swalwell may be involved with it also. It looks like he's going to be on that ticket also about the mortgage fraud. And then one of the Treasury governors on the board of governors, I think is what her position is, that's involved. So you got like 4, boom, 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 all sit there, and then they're like, we didn't do nothing wrong. We didn't do nothing wrong. What do you mean you didn't do nothing? You absolutely did. And that's that. Good for me, not for thee. Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. Everything was ducks in a row. This all was presented to the election board already before, because they tried to get him. And they said, the FEC said, no, we investigated it. What they charged him for felonies, those 13 felonies or whatever it is, what they charged him in felonies, which they had no right to bring federal charges at the state level. So there's an argument right there. Had no right to bring federal charges at a state level. 2, they're misdemeanors all day as a federal crime, as a federal charge. They're misdemeanors, not felonies. The investigation said there was no crimes committed, so we're not bringing charges. There was no crimes. Everything was on the up and up. There was nothing wrong. How do you get something wrong now? And at felonies, at federal crimes that are charged at a state level. Because federal prosecutors would not prosecute because there was no crime. And he was convicted. That's why they touted during the election 15 felonies or 13 felonies, whatever it was, that should be overturned. Donald Trump gets screwed in the state of New York. You misrepresented yourself on your filings for loans to make you get more favorable terms. Remember that one. This goes hand in hand with the mortgage fraud, because this is the precedent when it comes to the mortgage fraud. You cannot, when they're saying you lied to get more for favorable terms on your loans, say, no, I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't do nothing wrong. Yeah, you did. You lied. Sometimes more than once. Tish James. So it's retaliation. It's retaliation. No, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're going to go after me for things that aren't crimes, I'm going to go after you. I'm going to let them go after you for what are crimes. They're trying to say he told them to go after us. That's not the case. You got busted is what it was. You got busted. That's what it was. So, all right, guys, I know I kind of went a little sideways this morning. I'm going to bust out. Let me know what you think on some of the stuff. If you get somebody that's going to be, I can't believe you're a pastor. It is what it is. I'm not gonna be apologetic for who I am, how I feel. But like I said, I will not. That's why sometimes when I say, when I do say something in some of the old past episodes about when we get in a slight discussion about religion, and I say you either believe in God, you don't. I'm not gonna judge you. That's up to you, and it is. It's freedom of religion is part of the First Amendment. You have the choice whether to choose to accept Christ into your life or not, or whatever religion. That's what the First Amendment covers: freedom of religion. Man, if you're not religious, then that part doesn't apply to you. If you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the church, you don't believe in blah 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 blah, then that part of the First Amendment doesn't apply to you. Don't try to use it. And this is what happens why liberals are so hypocritical, because they don't agree with something until it's time for that to benefit them. Okay. And some people with the freedom of religion, they'll use I don't believe in religion, blah 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 blah. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in blah 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 blah. So freedom of religion doesn't apply until it can benefit them. And they're like, oh, First Amendment, freedom of religion. So think about that stuff with the hypocritical aspects that we see within our nation. Especially when are there conservatives that are hypocritical? Absolutely. But when it comes to certain things, especially when it pertains to the Constitution and stuff like that, they're very hypocritical. Liberals are, and that's just the way it is. It's been proven time and time again. So, all right, guys, gonna bust out again. Hit that the website and email aren't up here yet. It will be in just a moment. Pop over to the website. Bottom of the homepage, crowdfunding box, top of all the pages on the website, hosting get boxes. If you see an article on our site that doesn't have a name on it, it's ours. We will not take credit for anybody else's stuff. So if you're submitting something, must have a first name or pseudonym, state and location, not a physical address, state and location, so we can see we're reaching out. Others can see we're reaching out. We do not have any sponsors. Items, recommended items are exactly that, recommended items. We were not given those. We purchased those ourselves, tried them out, like them, so we recommend them. It says not a sponsor. If anything changes with the relationship between one of those items and ourselves, we will remove not a sponsor and we'll put the appropriate relationship in. Okay. if you're submitting that, giving a submission, um, can't be crazy and outlandish. And this goes for whether you're left or you're right. It doesn't matter. Everybody's allowed to submit something if they want, but it can't be crazy and outlandish. Run your piece through a grammar editor. Let's make sure that the spelling and the punctuations is spot on as we can get it. So that way, it melds it together, forms it. Not everybody took creative writing in college and stuff like that and knows exactly. It's like public speaking. Some people are very articulate and comfortable in public speaking. Some people ramble like I do, which is why when preaching, a lot of times I had a script kept me on point. So we want to make sure that the reader's really grasping what you're saying. It's like a novel, man. Like you can really get into it and understand and relate to the author and what they're saying. And that's the whole point of it. I'm not trying to bash anybody and say, "Oh, we're grammar police," blah 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 blah. No, I want to try to avoid people trying to come after you, your piece. They're not going to come after you. They're going to come after your piece for bad grammar. And a lot of times I've seen the grammar police will sit there and these liberals, they'll attack somebody because they disagree, because the person that they're attacking disagrees with their point, and they'll. Their grammar, they're full. Their attack is full of run-on sentences and grammatical errors. But they're calling somebody else out on their grammar and their spelling, the punctuation. But their attack is nothing but a run-on sentence and misspelled words, no punctuation. It's like, take a breath, dude. So let's try to put it together, and it's more for the reader, so they understand exactly what you're taught, what you're trying to get at, why your feelings are the way they are. Punctuation can be expressive. Okay, express a feeling, or a magnitude of different things. Punctuation can imply. Also. If you're quoting anything, make sure it's in quotations. Sources or references, things you're using, you're not quoting, but you're using to support what you're saying. Go in brackets, okay? Name of the website, no .com, .net, .org, no nothing. Title of the piece, if there is one, for the quotes and for sources or references, this is going to be the same. Copy the indexed address out of the address bar at the top of your browser, paste it directly below the quote. Sources and references, you're going to paste it in the brackets. What we're going to do is we're going to hyperlink the index address into the quotes, basically into the text that it goes with, making the text a different color, indicating that to the reader that, oh, this is a different color. They click on it. And when I first started seeing that, I wonder what's going to happen if I do this. And I click on it, it would actually go 9 out of 10 times to another website or another part on a the same website. Just the way it is. It's called hyperlinking. So when the reader can actually click on it, on the quote or the reference source, and go the name of the website, title, and go right to the page on the website that quote came from, or that reference or source that you're using to support what you're saying is from. Okay. If you know how to hyperlink ahead of time. A lot of people don't know what hyperlinking is, but if you do, that's the explanation. If you know how to hyperlink, go ahead, hyperlink ahead of time. Okay. Actually, in your editing, when you're Word or whatnot, most of the time, if you right click, you highlight something, right click, it'll actually give you a hyperlink option. So if you know how to hyperlink, go ahead and do that. And now what you're doing is you're opening the hyperlink. It's giving you where you put the URL. Copy that and paste it right in where that goes. Boom. Bob's your uncle. So again, not going to take credit for your piece. Must have first name or pseudonym, state and location, not a physical address. So like Bob from Phoenix, Arizona, or Turkey from Brattlesboro, Vermont. Simple, straightforward, non-identifying. The only one that's going to know it's you is you, and whoever else you tell it's you. So again, help us get those views up on Rumble, YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, go over to Rumble, support us over there, and over on YouTube. Help us get those views up, because that's what we want to use as the bread and butter to support and fund what we're doing. Okay, so help us get those views up. If you got ideas for other episodes or other content, go ahead, let us know, man. If you want, any way you want to try to help us and support us, you know how to promote. Don't put it in the comment section. Hit us in the email. So website and email should already be up here. Okay. So help us out. Help us grow. We thank you for any way you choose. You want to try to support us. Don't be afraid to contact us again. Send us what you got, an email. Contact us an email. And we'll get back to you. And again, we really want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Patriot View at 1A Independent News. Have a great, safe, and wonderful weekend. And as always, till next time, stay frosty, my friends.
You just heard Patriot View
at 1A Independent News
with Bear Direct. Join us on Rumble at 1A Independent News for our daily broadcast.